We're already seeing some pretty hyperbolic takes about Tetairoa McMillan, the very gifted wide receiver from Arizona. There was a comp I saw that was AJ Green and Justin Jefferson, which neither of those really make sense. The real talking point that we need to have with Tetairoa McMillan is, does his play style, does it work in the NFL? He is a jump ball monster. He is somebody who dominates in contested situations, which is all great in the college game. But is that going to translate to the NFL? Because there is a pretty scary track record of these jump ball guys not translating and not having success.
It terrifies me, man. It terrifies me. I mean, because here's the thing about evaluation. You learn from your misses, and some of my misses early on in my career were on the catch point dynamo wide receivers, the guys that can't create separation in other areas. Because I know some people are going to look at him and say, Drake London, right? But Drake London was a good route runner. Right? Like,
and he had some good long speed too. Like, he could separate.
Yeah. I mean, at USC, dude, he was a good route runner. Like, you could throw him into the boundary, you could throw him to the field, and he could work routes, and he could create some separation in his routes. He was only going to be a separator as a catch point guy or route runner on the NFL level, just because the speed was just average for NFL standards. But I think that for me, like, I usually value wide receivers that can create separation in at least two different areas, right? Like, the guys that can only do it in one spot, those are the guys that tend to miss. And for me, like, I look at McMillan and I'm like, I know he can win in the air. He's got great ball skills. He's got really strong hands. He can do that type of stuff. Is he a good enough athlete vertically? And is he a good enough athlete short area and as a route runner to win in those areas? I have my doubts, man. Mm-hmm. I don't think that he's going to necessarily stack dudes consistently on the outside using vertical speed. And I think that he's just a very average route runner. Like, there's some good there, but there's not enough for me to say he's a consistent separator as a route runner. So I think that he's going to be a good player for the role he plays. But I will say there's some buyer beware for me on him, Joe, as far as, like, if I'm drafting this kid in the top 15 or maybe even top 10, I would be really worried about him being a number one receiver on the next level, because I just think there's a lack of separation in areas other than separating in the air.
Right. That's where I start to get, like, really anxious. And I've done a number of radio spots in certain markets that really need receivers. Their teams need receivers. And the question gets asked, should he go in the top 10? Is he worthy? The Patriots is a good example. Is he worthy of going top 4? No, frankly, I would not go in that direction. I would not draft him that early. Him being a middle to back end of the first round prospect makes a lot more sense, because you're not aggressively overly committing to his success. There's a chance in a world where he doesn't work out because of that lack of ability to create separation. But there is certainly a visible ceiling. In order to unlock that ceiling of him being just a guy that always comes down with the football, is a jump ball dude in the red zone that is just stealing the ball out of the air, what does he need to be? Where does he need to be deployed in the NFL to find that success?
I mean, I think he's a boundary at the NFL level, right? And he's a guy that's going to work to the short end of the field. He's a guy that's going to work in a lot of one-on-one situations, because usually you roll coverage to the field because there's a lot more space to play, right? So you're going to get one-on-one with corners a lot, and that's a situation I think that is best served for him, because he's a guy that can catch the football in tight quarters, can work at the catch point. He's going to have to work the back shoulder game against one-on-one coverage. The only other spot that I could see, Joe, and I think that he could be successful there potentially, is in the slots, right? As a guy that can work one-on-one in the slot, work through contact, use his big body to the middle of the field. That's the only other spot. So, I mean, boundary or slots, but I'm a little hesitant on saying that he could play both, just because I just think this is a secondary option in a passing game. I don't think he's the number one receiver. So is he a boundary? Is he a pure slot? I have my hesitation on the slot, just because I don't think he's going to create consistent enough separation in and out of his breaks to be that guy that really, creates that easy underneath separation. Like, is he going to be an inviting body to the middle of the field? I think people have kind of coined him as that because he's 6'4 plus, because he has a big body, because he has a long frame. People are like, that's going to be a quarterback's best friend. And I slightly disagree with that.
Not that simple.
It's not. I disagree with it, because an inviting target is a big body that can create some sort of separation that makes the easy windows for a quarterback. Does he create easy windows for a quarterback? No. Does he create some interesting situations because he can extend and has a great catch radius and he can win outside of his frame? Yes, but is he a guy that a quarterback's going to look at and say, that guy's open, he's a big body, I'm going to consistently get him the football? That's where I struggle with Tet McMillan to a great degree.
I'd almost would pitch, I'd like him to play more in the slot, because then that is going to create mismatches against sub-package defensive backs, zone and sub-package defensive backs, and he's going to be faster than most linebackers, where he'll be able to separate as well over the middle of the field. If we were to pitch a ceiling and a floor before we close out here, his ceiling is Drake London, as you mentioned, where we've seen a ton of production out of him. Michael Thomas is another guy who played mostly in the slot, who is a big physical profile, who dominated off of slants, which was the recurring joke. But the floor here is him ending up like N'Keal Harry. There is a realistic shot that him being just blanketed by corners that are not far off from his physical profile, that are big and strong. Like guys like Sauce Gardner can find success against a player like him that can move their feet effectively enough and open their hips effectively enough to run step for step with him, and also be strong enough to win and to bully him not bully him, but like keep up with him at the line of scrimmage, and also maybe disrupt them at the catch point. So there's a very wide range of outcomes here, which is why I think that there is a bit of pause from us when we're breaking him down.
Well, and it's why I struggle with him in the top 10, because for me, he's Tim Patrick on the NFL level. And like the healthy Tim Patrick, we're like, he gets 800-900 yards if he's fully healthy, and he's a really good secondary option, right? Like if he's a great number 2 in an offense of a pass game weapon. But I just don't necessarily see number 1. Like, I don't even know if I see Drake London potentially on the next level. Like, I'm not sure I see that, because Drake London just had 100 catches and over 1,000 yards. Like, I don't know if I necessarily see that with Tet McMillan. I see Tet McMillan really good number 2. If not, he's probably a very average to below average number 3. Like, he's somewhere in that bucket for me. Just don't see number 1 receiver on the NFL level.
Folks, let us know in the comments, how good do you think Tetairoa McMillan is going to be in the NFL? Hit the like button and subscribe. We'll talk to you later.